This call is being.
Oops. I thought it was. Are you still there, Stephanie? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we're being recorded. Yes, we are. So good morning, everybody. I'm Margie Goliak out of the Chicagoland area, and I am very excited to open up this call the very first Monday of March. Springtime is here, and typically the spring selling season can be as hot as the holiday season with Easter and Mother's Day and graduation parties coming up, lots of reasons to buy wine. So remind your clients at a wine tasting what they're going to need it for in the next couple of months. I am so pleased to introduce Stephanie Boyard on this call. I've had the pleasure of traveling with her, talking to her, getting to know her. I'm incredibly impressed with how she has driven and grown her business, especially because she works this alongside a very busy life, family, and full-time job that includes a lot of travel. So when you hear those excuses, oh, I can't, this woman is here to tell you that you can. And with that, Stephanie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Margie. That was a really nice introduction. Although I will say I am now part-time, but I will still have some travel, but that's nice because it just gives me a lot more time for Wine Shop. So I like to tell everyone that Wine Shop is my main job and everything else I do is a side hustle. So it kind of throws them off. Anyway, I want to talk to you guys today about the March bonus points and some really great strategies for increasing your personal volume. And of course, I know that many of us have teams that do work full time and don't have the opportunity to hop on this call. So I want to make sure that I'm able to give you some really great nuggets that you can take back to your team as well. So the first thing that, just to kind of recap what the special is this month, the winery is giving us bonus points for every 1,000 in sales this month. And you can also earn the Sunday excursion to Blue Ostrich Winery, our sister winery, at convention for team recruiting and volume for March and April. So definitely, if you haven't looked at that launch webinar yet, hop on there. I'm not going to go through the details of that, but what I'm going to talk about today is going to help you with those exact things. So I know Kate Trock focused heavily on recruiting last week, so hopefully you've got your recruiting game on now. So today we're going to focus on several different ways to get your volume up and how to really get your team moving on this too. So I'm going to really kind of start with the basics. The first thing, of course, to get your volume up is you have to have bookings. You need a full calendar to maximize that personal volume. And you guys, it is still easy to book right now, even for next week. So there is still time. So the more bookings you have, the more consistent you are, the more volume that you're going to have. So if you're having a hard time getting some March dates, remember you can incentivize your dates. So you can offer to bring pairings, wine cupcakes, wine nachos, really whatever works for you. Reach out to past hosts, people on waiting list, be intentional. This is a great time to use the 5x5 system if you're kind of low on tastings this month, contacting 5 people a day for at least 5 days a week. Think about what that's going to look like for you if you continue to do that every single week this month. Not only will you fill up your March calendar, you're going to start spilling into March by the time you get it filled up. So be very intentional about your bookings because that's where it starts. The second thing, once you have those bookings, is to make sure that you're host coaching. Your volume actually starts at host coaching before you ever get to the tasting. And all of this fits together like a beautiful, nice puzzle. So you have to remember that these things that we do to build our wine tasting business are not done in isolation. They all work together. So definitely start it with host coaching. And if you're not host coaching fully, then you're actually missing the opportunity to partner with your host and get the right people to the tasting. So a couple tips for host coaching. I'm not going to spend as much time on this, but I do have a couple of tips that I think personally help with volume. One is that host coaching should always involve telling your host to invite wine-loving, wine-buying guests. Ask them to bring people are to invite people who are comfortable with our price point so that the experience is comfortable for them. And I really love saying that, because if everyone that is invited is not comfortable with our price point, it's really hard to sell wine, and they are uncomfortable with the experience, and it's harder to book with them too. So I like to add that little tidbit in there, and I find that it really does help. Also, I like to include what I call customer coaching with host coaching. This is where I utilize my Facebook event to reach out to customers. I post frequently every 3 to 4 days. I work really hard to get everyone excited about the tasting. And I'm very clear that it is a try before you buy wine tasting experience. So I really watch those RSVPs. I look and see who's coming. I, comment back when people comment on any of my posts. I use fun gifts and different things like that to really get them excited. But as you watch your RSVPs, you really want to host coach towards attendance too, especially if it seems low still 2 weeks out. This is where you want to work with your host to invite more people, perhaps. You can also post and invite a friend, and I actually offer to do that if they're comfortable with their friends bringing a wine-loving friend. We have a really great graphic in the back office for that, and I offer to bring gifts for everyone and their guests who bring someone. I usually just bring things like dollar store, fun wine glasses, wine stoppers, or those little organza wine bottles, and roll them up with a ribbon. But just doing a couple fun things like that can get people outside of that friend network for that host and allow you to actually branch off into some other areas. Also, after the tasting or right before, I like to post the menu and a link for people to order who can't come. This can encourage some outside orders for your host. And then I encourage my host to tag those people and invite them to check out our wines. That personal touch can go a long way. And then I also really like to get my host to add a personal touch to text or call guests and invite them personally, besides just using the Facebook event. I think that personal touch goes a long way of getting guests there. So once you've got bookings and you've really worked on host coaching, and now you're standing at your tastings and you're in front of people, now it's time to get that volume rolling. So a couple really great tips while you're at a tasting. First is speak in cases and half cases. I think we've probably heard that on this call a million times, but I cannot impress upon you enough how much of a difference that makes. You plant those seeds right then and there, that it is totally fine and normal to purchase half cases and full cases. Tell them that you're excited to find homes for several cases of wine tonight. Talk about mixing and matching and a la carte wines to create those cases. It really gets them thinking and circling different wines that they've enjoyed. Also, I do suggestive selling in 2 different ways. I do it with accessories and with wines. So let me talk to you about how I do suggestive selling with accessories. I actually bring 3 accessories with me to every single wine tasting, and I use them at every single wine tasting. And I always sell multiples of these. So I always bring the chrome stopper, the Haley's corker, and the in-bottle aerator. I use these 3 on 3 different wines, and I point out that there's not shipping on these small items because they fit in the box with the case of wine they're going to order. And then I tell stories about the accessories. So I love to talk about how I can put away a bottle of still wine, but I cannot put away a bottle of sparkling. So it's really great to use that chrome stopper and save that sparkling from going flat, because a flat sparkling is a boring sparkling. And I let them know that that little guy is only $6.50, and it's really going to be an awesome investment for all of the sparkling drinkers out there who, want to make sure that they save their sparkling wines, because you can't recork that thing. So I sell a lot of those. The Haley's corker is one of my favorite things to sell. I let people know that I have about 5 or 6 of those. Not that I don't finish a bottle. It's usually when I'm on my second bottle, I realize it's time to save it, and maybe finishing 2 isn't best on a school night, and that usually gets them laughing. Also, I let them know that when I'm at the pool or the lake or anything like that, I like to pop my cork at home, put that Haley's corker in the wine, and then it's really easy to get my wine while I'm sitting by the water without dealing with a cork. Because I live around a lot of water and a lot of people who are at the lake a lot, that works really well. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. So think about where you live and what your audience is and how that Haley's corker can really enhance that wine drinking experience when they're not just sitting in the comfort of their home, because it's really great for wine on the go for those of us who are outside a lot here. Also, I love to demo the corker. And you have to be kind of brave with this. Remember, it does not really fit into a bottle like our table wines with a screw cap. So only demo this on a bottle that's been corked. But I love to have it in the bottle. I love to turn that bottle on its side and even upside down and let them know, y'all, your wine is not going to leak. It's great to save your wine. It has a drip-free pour spout and a filter that helps begin aerating your reds. And it's so low profile that it's going to fit back in your fridge rather than trying to fit it in with a tall stopper. And I probably sell anywhere from 2 to 10 of those at every tasting. I'm not kidding. People love that whole Haley's corker when I demo that. And then last, people really love seeing that last red being poured from the in-bottle aerator. And I let them know it's really awesome compared to my other aerators at home because I have to hold those aerators and then juggle a bottle of wine with it. And so that's just a really kind of aesthetic pleasing thing to see the wine being poured from it. So I typically sell anywhere from $20 to $30 more in volume or more than that just because of accessories. And it doesn't sound like much at first, but when you think of having 6 to 8 tastings and being able to do that for, for the whole month, we're talking about 120 to 240 plus in volume. That could be the difference between a bonus gate or a team leader number difference if you still have kind of a baby team leader team where you're really having to work on your volume. The accessories are amazing. So that's my first thing that I do for suggestive selling. And I like to share how I use stories with that because I think it's just better for people to hear how we use those accessories rather than just saying, hey, there's this really great gadget. Now, the other thing I like to do is suggestive selling for wines. I like to suggest wines for different drinkers to have on hand when friends come over. I talk about Wine Club being awesome for that, and also adding bottles of Chardonnay or table wines to round out a case or a half case. Honestly, I sell table wines like crazy if I am able to encourage my host to add 1 to 3 of the table wines as a custom pack. Remember, your custom packs add volume, but when I have table wines, I almost always sell table wines in addition to other bottles, and it is a fantastic way to upsell for sure. And sometimes when I have somebody that needs a lower price point where they would have only bought 1 or 2 bottles, they will go ahead and buy a 3-bottle pack of table wines, which is an upsell for me. And then, I've given them something that's in their price range and they love that. So those table wines are really fantastic for that. I also like to suggest wines on the menu that were not in the sampler. I almost always sell wines that we never had in the sampler. I walk through the menu at the end, and after hearing what some of their favorites were, I like to suggest about 2 wines in every single category and tell people to not only to shop for themselves in their palate category that fits them best, but really to think about who they frequently enjoy wine with and add a couple bottles that they get to share with their friends. And so it's amazing how many of them will be like, oh my gosh, my neighbor's a sweet wine drinker. I really want her to try one of your sweet wines. What do you recommend? So it's a really great way to kind of go off of the menu and utilize your guests and your host who have been to tastings with you previously and are sitting there. Utilize them to share some of the favorite wines they've had that are hopefully still on the menu, but that they've had at their tastings that you were at earlier in the month or a couple of weeks ago, because they will sell for you. They will share stories about wines that are not in the sampler that evening, and they will share for you. I sold so many family ranch bottles simply because when they went out of the sampler, simply because I just had a group of women that kept coming to the tastings and ordering them and telling everyone they had to get them. So when you have people advocating for your wines, don't shut them down. Let them talk. It's amazing what they'll do for your business. The other thing to do at a tasting is really to focus on the opportunity to be a consultant. I mean, our title is a wine consultant. So be a consultant and help them by looking at their orders. And I really talk about maximizing shipping. So for example, what I'm looking for when I do that is if they only have 1 or 2 bottles on their order, I really try to steer them towards Wine Club because it's better pricing for them. But I can sometimes end up with a lifelong Wine Club member for a while. And in the big picture, that means more to me than a one-time buyer. Also, if I see that they have like 3 to 5 bottles on their order, I do let them know that adding bottles does not change their shipping price. If they want to maximize that, they could add a couple extra bottles and their shipping isn't going to change. And at 6 bottles, their shipping will go down. So it's funny that even though I may go through shipping, by the time you get to that 5th, 6th, 7th wine, sometimes they don't even really hear that until you are one-on-one with them doing a full service checkout. So actually looking at their order and chatting with them about that, I almost always have people who will go ahead and add a few extra bottles to maximize their shipping. If it's in their budget, they will do it. If it's not in their budget, they'll just say, oh no, 2 is fine or 3 is fine. I'm like, okay, no problem. Just want to make sure that you knew that there wouldn't be any additional shipping, and I move on. But definitely watch those orders. Don't just assume that what they come up with when you're doing their checkout, whatever's on their order form, don't just assume that that's all they really want. Like I said, if you're really consulting with them, you really can upsell several guests, but it's really about getting them a better deal. And when they see that you're really working towards getting them a better deal, you also start to build lifelong customers who will give you repeat orders. Also, watch your bottle count at the tasting. This is really going to help with your host perks, but it's also part of upselling. If you see that you are less than a case or maybe less than 2 cases, maybe there's only 9 to 10 bottles that are total on the tasting, or maybe you're right below 24 bottles if you have a larger tasting, let everyone know, hey, if anyone would like to add a bottle or 2, that would be awesome. We need 4 more bottles, and Sally is going to get another $5 of wine. And it's amazing how many of them, and be very excited about it, because it is amazing how many of them will go, oh my gosh, I think I could add another bottle. Or, oh, what about those red tables? You guys want to split that? And they will start adding bottles to help their friend get another bottle of wine for $5. So definitely continue as you're doing that checkout to watch the bottle count and then help them maximize their deals, because then your job is to maximize the host perks for the host. And all of that can work together to create higher volume, but also helping everyone get a better deal at the end of the day. So those are a couple of great ways to really look at maximizing that time at your tasting after you have your bookings and your host coaching. Those different types of selling techniques and suggestive selling really does work. Then the last thing that I'd like to chat about is the power and outside orders. I really love maximizing outside orders, and it's something that I have really been working on. But to make that easy, really think about creating a text in the notes section of your phone that you can really quickly personalize with someone's name and a personal note. Just work smarter, not harder with this. Go ahead and get those little text messages saved, and then you can use this to send to past guests, wine club members. You can share new wines with people, last call wines, hot deals to wine club members. There's so many different ways you can share that text. But if you think about making a goal for yourself to sell an extra case of outside order wine every single week, if you were to strive to sell a case, and it doesn't have to be to just one person, but what if you had 4 people that, each put in a 3-bottle order? Bam, there's a case. But y'all, that is approximately another 1,000 in volume for you for a month. So just for sending out some text and following up with great customer service, you can also maximize your personal volume in this way. So I really encourage you to think about, I really like the 5x5. I use it for so many things, but you can have an additional 5x5 for outside orders like that. Maybe you're contacting 5 people for recruits, for booking tastings, and 5 more people for outside orders. So just think about what it is that you need in your business at that time. And that's a really great intentional plan. That's what the 5x5 is about. It's about being intentional about how you need to build your business and what your goals are for that particular month. Which brings me to my last point, that you guys write down your goal. Write it down, keep it in front of you, and then do one more thing with it: track it. Goals that are written down can drive us, but when you track your goals with everyone you're talking to, every sell you make, every tasting you book, when you track it, it helps you to learn to be accountable to your goals, and you really strive to make sure that you hit them, especially when you see your progress. If you're not tracking, you don't see your progress. So I really encourage you not only to write it down, but to take that extra step as well and really watch your business blossom in that manner. So starting from the foundation of bookings and host coaching, lots of great stuff you can actually do at your tastings and looking at your goals. Hopefully that helps you guys really maximize your personal volume this month, get all the bonus points you can for the trip, and close March on a really strong note. And that's all I have, Margie.
Wow, that was an amazing call and really hit the key points of the business. This is definitely worth sharing, not only with your teams, but I would encourage you to get your new teammates on this call or to listen to the recording, because sometimes they don't know where to begin or how to even start. And Stephanie, you really nailed it on hitting some really key points of our tasting and how to build those orders at the tasting. I loved it. So especially with there's a saying out there that facts tell, stories sell. I love that quote. Facts tell and stories sell. So thank you for the reminder that as we talk about our wine, talk about the stories. That was awesome. All right, I'm going to go to the chat function and see. I don't know. There's a lot of accolades to you. I saw a lot of Corkers and Haley Stoppers. Here's Cindy Blakely's line. My line is opening a sparkling and a bag of chips on a Friday night. Binge on Netflix and use the Chrome stopper and wake up the next morning and make mimosas so you can keep watching that same show. That's cute. Back to facts tell and stories sell. It gets a good laugh. Great call. Sherry Stacks, awesome call. Great call. Megan King, yes, I love this call. Lots of notes. Wow, Stephanie, great call. Yeah, I would definitely listen to the recording. Great call. Any other questions? You can press the star key twice to unmute yourself, or I'll give the chat a second to catch up.
Question. This is Tasha. First of all, Cindy, I love that and I'm stealing it. Second of all, so now with the new host perks, I mean, I'm typically, so you talked about, if you need an extra 4, she needs an extra 4 bottles for the host perks. But I don't know until I'm done checking them all out, and I've already done it through the app. Any suggestions on, do you go around and, should we go around and add up, how many are you getting? And how many, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like if I'm just using the interest form, that's really easy to go back and add somebody's bottle if they want to, help the host out. But yes, I kind of ran into that the other night because it was month end, and so I was trying to close everyone out right there, and I had my back office open. I was just entering them as I go and charging everyone's card, and then it dawned on me, oh my gosh, I can't go back in and add a bottle. So I ended up, anyone that wanted to add a bottle, we actually did it under regular product for the host. And then they just kind of Venmo'd or PayPal'd her. And she was very happy to do it because she was getting a $5 bottle of wine. So I kind of learned my lesson on that I probably want to take a look at and kind of see where everyone's order is really fast before running it through, because I really do like using the app or just my back office to do that at a tasting. But you're right. You absolutely have to slow down a little bit and be a little bit careful about that. Otherwise, you have closed everybody out and your host still could need 2 or 3 bottles and it could have made the difference. So
And
that's what I did the other night and it worked out.
though it wouldn't work all the time, that's brilliant. I'm glad I asked because, yeah, of course the host is going to typically see these people at some point, and of course she's going to want to get the most out of her host benefits, so she could just add it on to her product. I mean, that's great. That's a great way around that. I really like using the
Yeah.
app right then and there. It's so much less work. So
Yes.
So yeah, thank you. I'm glad I asked.
You're welcome. I'm glad you asked too.
Let's see. A question from Megan King. Do you run into issues with sweet versus dry drinkers doing that? I don't know what she means. What verbiage do you use when you are converting a 2-bottle order into Wine Club? And what issues do you have around sweet versus dry with Wine Club? Would you like to comment on that, Stephanie?
Yeah, it just kind of depends. I try to make sure I know exactly what's shipping in Wine Club, but it's a lot easier if, I know there's a sweet wine in it and it's a sweet wine drinker trying to add a bottle or two, then I'm able to say, you're going to really love this bottle. This one is going to be a little bit drier, this white, but you might want to actually do that one with a little bit of spicy food. Remember how we did the lemon test and you liked it better? Then do that one with a little bit of spicy food and invite a friend over. But you're going to get
sangria.
Yes, or exactly. I actually made a sangria. I had a sangria tasting Saturday evening, and so that was a lot of fun for them to see how we could take a drier white and make a really great sangria with that in the sparkling. So that's a really great way just to share different ways you can use the wines. It doesn't always work to convert them, but when it does, it's really great. And my red wine drinkers, that's never an issue for my red wine drinkers. The only thing they're ever concerned about is, will I get a sweet red? And I usually just let them know we only get about 3, maybe 4 sweet reds in Wine Club a year. Most of the time they're going to be bold wines and they're going to be dry the way you like them. But if you do have one that's a little sweeter, you're going to know because of the VIN note, and go and have that with like some pizza or some spaghetti, something that's really saucy. The lighter, sweeter reds are really great with that. And when I give them suggestions, they really like it. So I think that's where I pull in that consulting part of what I do and really talk to them about how to have wine with different foods, even if they get something they're unsure of. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Absolutely. Or tell the story of gifting. I always say, you know what, if the wine doesn't, you're going to have it on your rack for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I'd love to have wine on hand for donations, gifts. Everybody's school these days seems to be asking for wine polls, gift baskets. There's always a home for it. Always.
Yes.
But that's a great answer. Especially, I like that super saucy. I like how that sounds. All right. I think that was a great call. And we like to keep these short, but Stephanie, you really loaded us with info. So thank you very much. Just a reminder tonight to get on Monday Night Live. Tammy has sent out the link to that, and let's maximize our volume this month. Just remember, it's double points every $1,000 you sell. So if you're at like $3,852, you're going to do what you can do to get over the hump. So start now. Do not wait for month end. That's my tip. So that's it. You guys have a great day, and thank you so much, Stephanie, for a fabulous call.
Thanks.